Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that most people don't understand until it's too late. You keep thinking that love is about holding on tighter, calling more, texting more, explaining yourself over and over again. But sometimes the real power, the real shift happens when you learn how to step back. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to something powerful, something that most people misunderstand their entire lives. I'm talking about detachment. And I know when you hear that word, you think it means walking away cold, shutting down, acting like you don't care. But that ain't what it is. Detachment is not rejection. It's self-respect in action. And until you understand that, you're going to keep giving your heart to situations that don't honor you. Now listen to me carefully. When you keep showing up for somebody who barely shows up for you, that's not love. That's imbalance. That's imbalance. When you keep explaining your worth to somebody who keeps overlooking it, that's not connection. That's exhaustion. And when you keep chasing someone who's comfortable being inconsistent with you, that's not passion. That's you slowly abandoning yourself. See, detachment is the moment you wake up and say, I deserve better than this. It's the moment you stop arguing for attention, stop begging for clarity, stop trying to convince somebody to treat you right, because here's the truth. If someone has to be convinced to value you, they're not your person. And I have seen this over and over again. People think that if they just love harder, give more, stay longer, sacrifice more of themselves, eventually the other person will wake up and realize what they have. But let me tell you something, that's not how it works. When you overextend yourself for the wrong person, you don't increase your value in their eyes. You decrease it, because now they see that no matter what they do, you're still going to be there. And that's where the problem starts, because when there are no consequences for inconsistency, inconsistency becomes the norm. When there are no boundaries, disrespect becomes comfortable. And when you keep tolerating less than you deserve, you're teaching people how to treat you. That's why detachment is so powerful. It changes the entire dynamic. It says, I'm no longer available for anything that drains me, disrespects me, or confuses me. It says, I'm choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and self-worth over emotional struggle. Now I know some of you are thinking, but what if he thinks I don't care anymore? Let me tell you something. That's not your problem. Your job is not to prove your love by tolerating poor treatment. Your job is to protect your heart while offering it to someone who actually deserves it. And let's talk about what detachment really looks like. It's not dramatic. It's not loud. It's quiet strength. It's you no longer reacting to every little thing. It's you no longer chasing conversations that go nowhere. It's you no longer feeling the need to explain yourself over and over again. It's peace, because when you truly respect yourself, you don't need to announce your worth. You move like you know it. You don't need to fight for attention. You give your energy where it's appreciated. And you don't need to hold on tightly to someone who's slipping away. You let them go and trust that what's meant for you will stay. And here's the part that changes everything. When you detach from the need for someone else to validate you, you become unstoppable, because now your happiness isn't dependent on their actions. Your confidence isn't tied to their attention. Your peace isn't controlled by their inconsistency. You take your power back. And when you operate from that place, something incredible happens. You stop attracting situations where you have to prove your worth. You stop settling for half-effort connections. You stop tolerating behavior that doesn't align with who you are. Because now you're not just hoping for better, you're expecting it. Let me tell you something about people. They can feel when you've reached that level, they can feel when you're no longer desperate for their attention. They can feel when you're no longer afraid to walk away, and that energy, that's what commands respect. Not beg it, not chase it, not over-explain it. Respect comes from knowing your value and standing on it, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it means letting go of someone you care about, even when it means being alone for a while, instead of settling for something that doesn't fulfill you, because being alone with peace is better than being in a situation that constantly drains you. And I want you to understand this clearly. Detachment is not about pushing people away. It's about pulling yourself back together. It's about reclaiming your time, your energy, your focus, and your emotional stability. It's about saying, I would not lose myself trying to hold on to someone else. And when you finally reach that point, everything shifts. Your standards get higher. Your boundaries get stronger. Your confidence gets deeper. And your life starts aligning with the kind of love, respect, and consistency you actually deserve. So the next time you feel the urge to chase, to over-explain, to prove your worth to someone who's not showing up the way they should, pause, take a step back, and remind yourself that your value does not decrease based on someone's inability to see it. Detachment is not rejection, but it's self-respect in motion. And once you truly understand that, you'll never settle for less again. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that's going to shift your entire perspective if you really hear me today. When you stop chasing, when you stop running behind someone trying to get their attention, trying to get their love, trying to get them to act right, that's when the truth shows up. That's when you finally see things clearly, because when you're always the one reaching, always the one calling, always the one fixing, you're too busy doing the work to notice who's not doing theirs. See, chasing creates an illusion. It makes you believe there's something real there because you're constantly investing your time, your energy, your emotions. But let me tell you something. Just because you're putting in effort doesn't mean they are. And when you're always the one closing the gap, you never give them the chance to show you whether they're willing to meet you halfway. That's the danger. Because a person can get very comfortable receiving your attention without ever having to earn it. They can get used to your presence without ever appreciating it. They can sit back and let you do all the emotional labor while they give you the bare minimum. And you know why? Because you've made it easy for them. But the moment you stop chasing, everything gets real, because now there's space. And in that space, truth has nowhere to hide. When you stop texting first, you see if they reach out. When you stop making plans, you see if they step up. When you stop over-explaining your feelings, you see if they even notice the shift. And what they do in that moment, that's your answer. Not what they said before, not the promises, not the excuses, their actions right there in your silence that tells you everything you need to know. See, a lot of people are in love with potential. They hold on to what someone could be instead of accepting what they are right now. And because of that, they keep giving chance after chance, hoping that one day things will change. But let me be real with you. People show you who they are through consistency, not through words. And when you're always chasing, you interrupt that process. You keep giving them opportunities to do just enough to keep you around. but never enough to truly build something solid. You stay stuck in confusion, trying to figure out where you stand, trying to decode mixed signals, trying to make sense of behavior that shouldn't even be complicated. But when you stop chasing, confusion disappears, because now it's simple. Either they show up or they don't. Either they make the effort or they don't. Either they value your presence or they let it fade away. And let me tell you something. That clarity is powerful. It might hurt at first, but it frees you, because now you're no longer stuck in the what if. You're no longer holding on to false hope. You're no longer investing in someone who isn't investing in you. You finally see the truth. And I know that can be scary, because sometimes deep down, you already feel the answer, but you're afraid to confirm it. You're afraid that if you stop trying, the whole thing will fall apart. But let me tell you something important. If the connection only survives because you're the one holding it together, then it's already broken. A real connection doesn't require one person to do all the work. It doesn't require constant chasing, constant fixing, constant proving. It flows. It's mutual. It's consistent. And when you stop chasing, you give the other person the opportunity to prove whether they're capable of that or not. Now here's the shift. This isn't about playing games. This isn't about trying to manipulate someone into wanting you more. This is about stepping back and allowing reality to reveal itself. Because when you're always in pursuit, you're controlling the narrative. But when you let go, you see the truth of the situation without interference. And that truth, that's what sets you free. Because now you're no longer chasing someone who's unsure about you. You're no longer investing in someone who's inconsistent. You're no longer wasting your time trying to build something with someone who isn't showing up with the same intention. You start choosing better. You start recognizing effort. You start valuing consistency. You start understanding that love isn't supposed to feel like a constant struggle for attention. And most importantly, you start respecting yourself enough to walk away from anything that doesn't meet your standard. Because here's the reality: when you stop chasing the wrong person, you create space for the right one. You stop pouring your energy into something that's draining you, and you make room for. But I'm here to tell you, fills you. But that can only happen if you're willing to let go of what isn't working. And I know that's hard. I know it takes strength, because walking away from something you care about isn't easy. But staying in something that slowly breaks you, that's even harder. So you have to make a decision. Are you going to keep chasing something that's uncertain? Or are you going to step back and allow the truth to come to you? Because the moment you stop chasing, the moment you stop forcing, the moment you stop trying to hold something together that isn't naturally aligning, that's when you finally see things as they are. And once you see the truth, you never want to go back to confusion again. Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you about something that most people get completely backwards. You think that the more you give, the more someone will value you. You think that if you keep showing up, keep pouring your heart out, keep proving how much you care, eventually they'll match your energy. But let me tell you something. Attraction doesn't grow from overgiving. It grows from balance. It grows from space. It grows when two people stand strong on their own, not when one person is doing all the emotional work. Emotional independence, that's the game changer. See, when you are emotionally dependent on someone, you start moving differently. You start needing their attention to feel secure. you start waiting on their messages to feel important. You start letting their actions control your mood. And without even realizing it, you give them power over your peace. Now listen to me, that's not love. That's attachment rooted in fear. Fear of losing them, fear of being alone, fear of not being enough. And when fear is driving your actions, you don't show up as your best self. You show up as someone who's constantly trying to hold on. And hear that. So what happens when you do that? You start over-texting. You start overthinking. You start questioning everything. You start questioning everything. You start accepting things you normally wouldn't accept, all because you don't want to lose the connection. But the truth is, that behavior doesn't bring someone closer. It pushes them away, because when someone feels like you need them to feel okay, it creates pressure. And pressure doesn't build attraction, it kills it. Nobody wants to feel like they are responsible for your happiness. That's a weight most people can't carry. And eventually, they start pulling back just to breathe. Now here's where emotional independence changes everything. When you are emotionally independent, you're not looking for someone to complete you. You're already whole. You're not depending on their attention to validate you. You already know your worth. You're not losing yourself in the connection. You're adding to your life, not replacing it. And that energy, that's powerful, because now you're showing up from a place of confidence, not neediness. You're engaging because you want to, not because you feel like you have to. You're giving love freely, but you're not chasing it desperately. And people can feel that difference immediately. See, confidence attracts. Independence attracts. When someone sees that you have your own life, your own purpose, your own happiness that doesn't revolve around them, it makes them respect you more. It makes them curious about you. It makes them want to be a part of your world instead of feeling like they are your entire world. And that's where real attraction lives, not in constant availability, not in overgiving, but in a balance between connection and individuality. Let me explain something to you. When you have emotional independence, you're not afraid of space. You're not afraid if they don't text right away. You're not sitting there overanalyzing every little thing. You trust the flow. You trust yourself. And most importantly, you trust that if something is meant for you, it will align naturally. That kind of calm energy, it's rare, and because it's rare, it stands out. Now compare that to someone who is emotionally dependent, always checking their phone, always wondering where they stand, always needing reassurance. That energy feels unstable. It feels uncertain, and over time, it becomes draining for both people involved. But when you're emotionally independent, you bring peace into the connection, not pressure. And let me tell you something else. That independence also protects you, because now, if someone starts acting insistent, you don't panic, you don't chase, you don't lose yourself trying to fix it. You step back, you observe, and you make decisions based on what you see, not what you hope. That's power, because now you're not afraid to walk away if something doesn't feel right. You're not holding on to someone who isn't showing up. You're not settling for less just because you're scared of being alone. You understand that being alone with peace is better than being in a connection filled with confusion. And when you carry that mindset, everything changes. You raise your standards without even saying a word. You attract people who match your energy, not people who take advantage of it. You build connections that are based on mutual respect, not emotional dependency, because you're no longer looking for someone to fill a void. You've already filled it yourself. And here's the truth that most people don't realize. When you stop needing someone, that's when they start valuing you more. Not because you're playing games, but because you're playing games, but because your energy shifts. You're no longer easy to control. You're no longer predictable in a way that makes you easy to take for granted. You become a choice, not an option. And people treat you differently when they know they have to earn your presence instead of just having it handed to them. So understand this clearly. Emotional independence doesn't create distance. It creates attraction. It creates respect. It creates a healthier, stronger connection because both people are showing up as complete individuals, not as two halves trying to fix each other. And when you reach that level, when you truly stop relying on someone else to define your happiness, that's when you become magnetic in a way that no amount of chasing could ever achieve. Ladies and gentlemen, there's something powerful about silence that most people underestimate. You think communication is all about what you say, how you explain, how you defend yourself, how you keep trying to make someone understand you. But let me tell you something. Sometimes the loudest message you will ever send is the one you don't say a word in. Your silence can speak louder than your words ever did. See, when you keep talking, keep explaining, keep repeating yourself to someone who isn't changing their behavior, you start losing your impact. Your words begin to carry less weight because they're not backed by action. You say you're tired, but you stay. You say you deserve better, but you accept the same treatment. You say this is the last time, but you give another chance. And after a while, they stop taking you seriously. Not because they don't hear you, but because they've learned that your words don't lead to consequences. They've learned that no matter what they do, you still going to be there explaining, forgiving, and trying again. That's where silence changes everything. That's where silence changes everything. Because silence is not just the absence of words. It's the presence of action. It's you finally deciding that you're done repeating yourself. It's you stepping back and letting your behavior reflect what your words have been trying to say all along. Now listen to me carefully. Silence is not about ignoring someone to hurt them. It's not about playing games or trying to manipulate emotions. It's about protecting your energy. It's about refusing to engage in cycles that keep draining you. It's about understanding that not every situation deserves a response. Because sometimes the more you explain,